Hi, everybody. Good morning. Yes, so yesterday was Sunday, and I really wanted to save my hormones for myself. Okay. As you can see, that those of you that tuned in yesterday, you got to see me kind of like lackadaisical, eh, not really super into my Facebook lives or my Facebook live yesterday. So, I was kind of half-assing it, but I was still giving you good information, but it wasn't like, you know, anything super revolutionary. No major analogies were made yesterday. I was just kind of like rambling, and I was talking about negative and positive elements, how I can afford to do negative and positive elements and play in that arena and not get held accountable for playing in the negative elements. And I just didn't want to, I just didn't want to keep it because I was just being stupid and rambling. So those of you that did tune in yesterday, great. You got to see, you know, some of my whatever it is I said that I didn't want to keep, and that's fine. And there you go. So whatever. So anyways, um, this last week, I know a lot of people have been commenting, and I've been posting a lot of stuff, and I've been sort of like focusing. Well, I have been focusing on the holistic naturopaths and then the conspiracy industry. And so yeah, some of you are still on the platform and the bandwagon of like just skewering biotech. Like seriously, you cannot get them out of your crosshairs. And I really just want to encourage anybody that's on the J Juice, if you're still holding biotech accountable for all of the woes in the world, you don't understand J Juice. Because when somebody says, oh, yes, they falsified documents and contrived and manufactured research, it's like, first of all, can you prove it? So you're making a claim of hearsay, right? And you're passed along the internet. Can you prove it? Hey, Krista. And even if you could prove it, even if you're like, I have all the evidence in the world to prove that biotech falsified all of their documents, whether it's around the vaccines or any of the prescription drugs, does it really matter? Because when you actually play in the negative elements, guess what? You're going to have more negative outcomes. So does it even matter whether or not biotech falsified documents? It doesn't even matter. Guess what all the cures are and all the research for the cures? They're all negative elements. So why would you even focus on what biotech allegedly did if it is no relevance to the J Juice, to our recipe and the protocol? Why would you even still focus in that arena? Why would you? There's no point in it. It's a waste of your currency. See, we have people still wasting their currency on things that give them no return on their investment. And so yesterday, I did not feel like utilizing my hormones, really. And so I was kind of like, chill. Today, I'm giving you guys my hormones. And I really wanted to talk about this the other day, but I just didn't really feel like it. But, right now, I'm just like, why not? Let's figure out why would a person still focus on what they think is bad at biotech. Because we know biotech deals with whatever it is, the shortcuts humanity wants. Humanity doesn't want, well, they don't even know about it, but humanity doesn't want to deal with pain. They think that pain is a bad thing. So guess what? The only way that they could figure out how to mitigate pain is to play with poisons. So yes, they're going to do a bunch of research. Yes, they're going to find out which negative element on the periodic tables, which compound elements are going to work in whatever given situation. And so I call them shortcuts. When you're playing in the pills, powder supplements, and detoxes, and kombuchas and apple cider vinegars, and the lemons and the limes, and everything that claims to have some kind of curative effect, that's all negative elements. You're playing in the negative elements, okay? So it's like, now we have to then look at, all right, do we need to be taking those shortcuts? Is there a point to it? Well, yeah, for some people that want to get back, that doesn't mind being mutated, but they still want to get back to work, do their thing, have a specific outcome like have more sex or not, or be more, I don't know, energetic in the morning. So, they will find ways to take protein drinks, energy drinks, whatever the case may be. So, but now we're seeing that humanity is mutated. Okay? And we're seeing that that we are expending our hormones on things that give us no return on investment. We are paying other people first. So what happens is when you're taking on these shortcuts, okay, whatever it is, you're giving your money, and then you are, you're giving your money, and then you're not taking on the hormones yourself. You're giving the weight for somebody else to go and mess with. Okay, because that's what they do is, it's like withholding the currency that you should be paying yourself first when you mitigate hormones or when you expend hormones on things that don't make a difference. So this might be a horrible analogy in this little area here, but when you pay a doctor, you pay them money, so you're wasting your money, but then it may be something temporary, that's fine. But when you pay like for a prescription drug, you're paying for somebody to short circuit your body to get a specific outcome, which means that you're not fully realizing the benefits of actually inducing the right hormones, like the prostaglandin hormone. So it all depends on which hormones are being manipulated. And so when you pay somebody to do this stuff, well, you don't know exactly what they're doing to you, but they're promising you an outcome, which is fine. Okay, now you have a shortcut. But then what happens over time is those shortcuts will then compromise the full effectiveness of your system, the way that you really truly want. You want to be a whole person that isn't going to degrade later on. But I guess we have accepted that, so we're changing that perception. So anyways, I was trying to find a good analogy around shortcuts, and the construction industry is like a perfect example, because when people do take shortcuts in the construction industry, you're seeing foundations are not lining up. You're seeing the house start decaying. You start, you feel and you see the crappy work. And I'm not really well versed enough in the construction industry to give you really good examples that you can really understand. So I'll read you a website that could give you an idea. Okay, so the 4 typical ways builders cut corners, and it's business as usual. I'm not going to read you I'll read you enough. So the 4 typical ways. Safety compromises. So sad to say, it takes a little extra time and material to enact and implement safety measures because there's no intrinsic contract value or work product for safety. It's often the first to go. So they're not wearing their goggles, they're not having an eye wash station if they're using certain harsh chemicals. And so rushing through work also creates safety liability, thus vicious cycle is formed. This is more prevalent on smaller and private sector projects where OSHA oversight is virtually non-existent. So yeah, you have these small-time construction workers who say, hey, I'll build you a deck or I'll redo your kitchen for pennies on the dollar. And yeah, they're compromising themselves and their employees by not going through the safety and rushing through stuff, and then shoddy work, and then your house is devalued. Okay, because then someone's going to go and look and say, hey, yeah, this is bad workmanship. So material substitution, well, this is no different. And then the safety compromise is no different than when a person doesn't, I don't even know how to explain that in the regular world. But what would a safety compromise be as far as cancer, disease, and chronic illness? When you don't adhere to the safe, well, yeah, when you're when you're going to work and you're sick, and that's compromising safety and people around you. When, when you don't give yourself enough time to heal enough to then, see if you can be a 100% when you go back to whatever duty. So there's that. Then the material substitution. When you're substituting good materials for really cheap and crappy materials. So project specifications generally describe the performance requirements of all materials used to build a project. The trouble is these materials, especially minor or subsystem component hidden within the walls, floors, and ceilings, are less scrutinized by any oversight. More attention is paid to the visible finishes. And that's no different than what we do right now in the allopathic holistic world. We're so concerned about getting rid of our psoriasis by utilizing creams and antibiotics that we don't that there isn't like any more examination or focus on what is actually doing to you when you do cut corners by taking these cures, because cures are poisons. So material substitution is no different than cures. More attention is paid to visible finishes. You might say the tendency is to sweep under the rug, substitute material or poor workmanship, and put up a false front. And that's exactly what goes on in the workout world, in the esthetician, beauty world, as far as makeup and plastic surgery. And so, yeah, we're seeing people who are like the walking dead because they look great on the outside, but they're dead on the inside. Not all the way, but they're getting there, okay? And then oversight, and there's workmanship, generally speaking, better quality, qualified workers get paid more. Well, there's nobody better than you once you understand how your body works. When you give your body away, when you lease your body to a doctor or a nurse or a homeopathic person, they're making money off your body, okay? And if you're not going to specialize in your body, which is you, then you're basically using substitutes. You're taking the shortcuts. You are absolving yourself of any wrong responsibility, which means that you're going to get all the negative consequences because you don't know how things work. And so then you are subject to somebody else's perception of what they think is wrong and their perception of what they can do to correct it. And it's always with poisons. So it doesn't matter if it's falsified, if somebody said, oh yeah, this research was falsified using this stuff, and da-da-da. It doesn't matter. When you're taking on a cure, when you're looking to someone who is a professional, which is fine for those that are in imminent danger, sometimes is necessary. But when you're not in imminent danger and you don't want to really truly face your own currency by dealing with your own hormones to get them all correct, then yeah, you're going to have somebody do some really shoddy work, bad workmanship, and you're going to pay out your ass too. Oversight. It takes more than a project executive to run most projects. Many builders ignore the fact and either don't provide enough supervision or staff supervisors who lack sufficient training. Well, you don't give yourself enough support system around you. You surround yourself with people who are always trying to undermine you. And that may be some issues around, with people trying to heal, especially on J-Juice, when you don't put yourself in the right situation to support your healing process. So the result is enhanced likelihood of compromised work is product and coordination. On smaller projects, a working foreman may be represented as a de facto project superintendent. However, a working foreman is no replacement. So yeah, it's just you don't have adequate enough supervision and support to make sure the project gets done. So I know this is kind of like, okay, we kind of sort of know this, but it's like you can take all this stuff and you can replace it with everything that's out there, like in the different industries, okay? And so it's like just finding, driving Uber, yes, Krista, sexual contact. I mean, like, it could be likened to anything that's out there. You guys are drinking the JJ. All right. So anyways, as far as ALS, somebody asked about ALS yesterday, and ALS should never be discriminated. Like, it's not like, J-Juice is only going to fix, certain cancers and diseases, but then not at all address ALS. And ALS is one of the huge things that I don't think there's a cure for that. Is there a poison for ALS? I don't think so. But what is ALS? Okay. ALS is, hold on. ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. So guess what systems are being affected the neurological system, and yeah. So amyotrophic comes from the Greek language. A means no, myo refers to the muscle, and trophic means nourishment. No muscle nourishment. When a muscle has no nourishment, it atrophies or wastes away. Lateral identifies the areas in a person's spinal cord where portions of the nerve cells that signal and control the muscle are located. As this area degenerates, it leads to scarring or hardening sclerosis in the region. Motor neurons reach from the brain. Okay, so here's the thing. So they're not getting nutrition at all to the muscular system. That should be a little scary that somehow there is something blocking your body to be able to absorb nutrients in the muscular system. So you have 11 different systems, and J-juice, okay, goes and distributes all of the nutrition to the 11 different systems. It doesn't discriminate. But if you have ALS and you're not doing J-juice and you have ALS, you have, what happens is you have somebody cut corners, did some shoddy work, and so now the body is rerouting the nutrition and going to other systems of the body, but ignoring the muscular system. So somehow, somewhere, the muscular system was being discriminated against in your body because of mutations. Now, I would love to know what's on a titer test of all the ALS patients that are out there. What is the most prevalent antibody in an ALS patient? And I would wish that all of the ALS people out there would actually band together and go exchange titer test readings. But we know people are all about privacy. Oh God forbid should you know my medical history because it's so private. For who? For science, so they can go and do whatever they do? Or why don't you guys arm yourself with the information and then look for a pattern and be like, oh wow, it looks like that we have a prevalence of this specific virus or disease that seems more prevalent in everybody that is an ALS person. Oh wow, it could be this. Hey, let's do J-juice and disperse all those antibodies. Because guess what? When you take a P test and they look and test your P to see what antibodies, guess what? Antibodies are coming out of your body. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So how do they test for antibodies when you do drug tests? You pee in a cup or you do a blood test. But most of the people that go get drug tests, they pee in a cup. So obviously you're releasing antibodies out of your body, but you're not releasing them all, just the ones that are overabundant, that are causing alterations in your whole behaviors. Okay? So, why not get people to understand what predominant antibodies are present to then see how that affects certain ALS people? But see, that would take some people to understand their bodies and be organized, and we're not there yet, but I'm putting it out there. And people who are in all these different ALS groups are run by Biotech and holistic groups. So you even mention Jilly Juice, you will get attacked. So now it's time to find people that are part of these types of things and find like-minded people that understand J-juice and start comparing your titer test to see exactly what is most prevalent that could be contributing to your ALS. Okay? So anyways, oops. And so motor neurons reach from the brain to the spinal cord and from the spinal cord to the muscles throughout the body. The progressive generation of the motor neurons in ALS eventually leads to their demise. When the motor neurons die, the ability of the brain to initiate and control muscle movement is lost, with voluntary muscle action progressively affected. People may lose the ability to speak, eat, move, and breathe. The motor neurons that are affected when you have ALS are the motor neurons that provide voluntary movement and muscle control. So imagine being a prison in your body. So when you still are aware, but you can't move anything or say anything, that's no different than people who are dying from cancer disease and chronic illness. Okay? You are creating a prison within your body. Every single time you do a shortcut, you play with the cures, you're railing about something about, oh God, biotech falsified documents, did this, did that. Who cares? When you play with poisons, you're going to get more poison, so who cares? Don't even focus on biotech. That's not even in the realm of what you should be even like looking at. They're there for people who want the shortcuts. You don't want the shortcuts, okay? And so, we have J-Juice to then give people the opportunity to finally pay themselves first. They create the hormones that need to be created. Their biochemistry is all fluctuating. We have to transition, from a diet that was not serving us to now finally just doing the J-Juice diet, but it's only temporary. At some point when your body is 99.9%, perfect, so to speak, you will then gravitate towards specific foods. Now, I inadvertently, indirectly, unbeknownst, actually gave a platform for the vegans and vegetarians. Okay? It wasn't my intention. It's like I'm trying to kiss anybody's ass out there, but no. I'm looking at the thing with the Neanderthals, and I know that Kevin's going to love this. Kevin already loved it. He already said he loved it, and it's going to fuel him, which is fine because he needs to be fueled. He needs to be validated and vindicated, okay, because he works hard. But yeah, I mean, there is a percentage of us that have Neanderthalic DNA in our body, and Neanderthals, in my research and in my theories, could potentially be when a person is that mutated, this is what then humanity is going to end up like if we don't change the trajectory. So the Neanderthals, we have people that look very caveman-like, and yes, they eat meat, and you could probably look at all the different hunters that are out there. They're potentially caveman, and I find caveman-like men a little attractive. Now, that, and I still find my husband attractive, even though he's like a caveman in a way, and I love him in his cavemanish ways. But it does represent a certain craving for potentially meat, and then there's other mutations that go on, and people that are on the protocol that may kind of exemplify it probably realize it. Now, will they turn into some yuppie? I can't tell you. Will they turn into some vegetarian? I don't know. But I'm looking at where our humanity is going, and we may end up, like a Neanderthal down the road. So, it's one of those things that's what we see as potentially the future, that we never kill anything. We may just eat vegetables and that's it. And we live in a peaceful society. But that's going to be way down the road. But as far as with like the ALS stuff, I mean, that's just one of many symptoms that are out there. Okay? I mean, you have 11 different systems. Hold on. You have 11 different systems, and you have a zillion type of disease potentials. And so, it's like it won't discriminate. And I will take you where you are. You'll take yourself where you are, and then transition into the J-Juice world. You'll stick with the diet. If you're a carnivore, then you may eat some chicken, and then maybe down the road you don't. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. But you will start seeing your biochemistry change. And some, I don't buy red meat. I just buy chicken nowadays. But even then, chicken right now, it just doesn't even taste good. So, I'll do the cheese and butter and all that stuff, milk type stuff, but I won't be drinking milk. But that's kind of because milk is like hormones. Okay, so I will be able to handle the hormone intake from the food supply, but then I will also be able to counter any hormonal imbalances, any antibody imbalances, any cancer or candida imbalances. That all gets addressed. Okay, so ALS, whether it's ALS or MS or lupus, fibromyalgia, what else? Rheumatoid arthritis, any autoimmune disorder, diabetes, cancer, disease, all that stuff, everything will get addressed. There is nothing that J-Juice will discriminate against. Nothing. Because when you take in a strategic nutrition, everything in the body will eventually get prioritized based upon the conditions, how serious it is. Okay? And biotech is not going to really research this stuff, because what people are asking for in biotech is for pain mitigation, because we have so many people out there that are so mutated that are wanting the shortcuts. We got to give what people want. We can't legislate morals. We can't force people to eat healthy. We can't stop them from doing drugs or taking, or drinking alcohol. So what do? We provide them what they're looking for without completely decimating them right off the bat. Okay? So don't worry about what happens in the vaccine industry. If it comes down to whether you have to take a vaccine because your titer test shows that you're negative because you're basically healthy, you're on J-juice, go get the vaccine. And then guess what? Do the J-juice. It'll be possibly potentially very rare that a person who doesn't have children would then have to get any kind of vaccine as far as public health. Okay? But if it does happen that way in the next 5 or 10 years, if it does happen, don't worry about it. It's just an antibody. You would get exposed to those antibodies and other elements like mercury and formaldehyde in other areas of your life anyway. So all you got to do is just do the J-juice, and it purges out any foreign objects, any excess heavy metals or things that don't belong, and then absorbs what it needs. You need a certain amount of mercury, you need a certain amount of fluoride, you need a certain amount of barium, strontium, whatever, but your digestive system will then release any excess. So when you pee, you have excess minerals coming out of your body that your body doesn't need. It has excess antibodies, because you take a pee test, because they want to test for antibodies to see how many antibodies are present, and you take a pee test and you come up positive, that means you have a lot of antibodies in your body that are present. When you take a pee test and you haven't done drugs or whatever, and you're negative, guess what? It means you don't have as many antibodies. So you're releasing antibodies when you take a pee test. So I'm sure that if you have all these other antibodies, that when you do J-juice and you are balancing out all your antibodies and you're releasing any excess, guess what? Yeah, you are. But you're still keeping a few there because your body is always going to have it because you've been exposed to a pathogen. So you never totally eradicate all the antibodies. So when you're an Rh negative, doesn't mean that you don't have the rhesus monkey gene, because you've been exposed to someone that has. I mean, Rh positive and Rh negative people, Rh negative people are able to counter and not have an over accumulation of the Rh positive. But the Rh positive person doesn't have a balancing force that releases any excess Rh, the Rh antigen. And so they stay Rh positive until they actually find a way to balance out their system and release any excess to where they would trigger a negative on a blood test as far as the Rh factor. Because the body will always create antibodies if it's exposed to a pathogen. So don't fear the vaccines if it ends up that we do deal with a public health crisis because people aren't taking care of themselves and they are mutating disease faster than the vaccines can get created to then give people a layer of protection who are very weak. Okay? So, right now I'm just kind of like tripping on, if you were to look at my videos like a couple of years ago, and I'm like anti-vax, demonizing everybody, conspiracy theorists all over the place, I tell you what, and now realizing balance, realizing there's a place for everybody and everything. Unless somebody is at your door threatening your life, nobody is in imminent danger. So there's no reason to fear the 5G, no reason to fear the chemtrails, no reason to fear anything except that, we do have people out there that are in power, regardless of who it is. It doesn't matter if it's Trump or Obama or anybody else, they're still mutated and they'll make decisions. And then hopefully we'll have enough of the good, okay, that they're not going to allow us to get into anything catastrophic like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And we were the ones that did that. But then, they attacked Pearl Harbor, so then we did a retaliation. That was back in World War II. But then we had, the 9/11. Who cares who did it? It doesn't matter who did it. We have mutated people that did that, okay? So now we are stepping up our game and trying to secure our homeland so we don't have the repeat of those events. Okay? So, whatever you think the reason why we are where we are, it doesn't matter. Understand the need for it, because no matter if it's our government or somebody else, we still have to put measures in place, because we still have people in the police department that don't want something to happen to their community. We have local government that doesn't want anything to happen to their community. We have state officials like the OAG that are wondering, am I some crazy Unabomber type of girl with a manifesto that wants to kill everybody with her juice? No. So they go and write to me and say, hey, can you please substantiate? I do. I show them that I got my juice tested. It's not antibiotic, it's a probiotic. So this could not hold anybody, this juice cannot be held accountable for anybody's death. And so they want to make sure that their constituents, their population is relatively safe from crazy people. Okay? So I don't see even our president or any other world leaders are trying to really eradicate, because we have too many checks and balances. Regardless of what you think about them, whether Democrat or Republican, we have too many people that want us to live, that our society will not take a fall. But you see, like, all over the internet, end time headlines, oh yes, we're coming upon the end of days, everything is happening faster and faster. So it's I just don't focus on all of that biblical stuff where people say, oh yeah, it's the end of days, it's the Lucifer is going to come out or Satan's going to come out, with all this stuff with IBM and putting these little thingies in our body, and no, you just waterfall it out. If you ever get like the mark of the beast in your body for whatever reason, whether it's unbeknownst, don't worry about it. I'm wondering if my dog that was chipped, if her chip actually came out, potentially. Am I going to go and get her tested to see if her chip is still there? No, I don't really need to. If it ever comes down to it, great. But she never leaves my side. I have her outside, and we don't have a fence line yet in one part of our yard. But she doesn't go anywhere. She stays right in her area, and she is right by my side 24/7 all the time. She is like my little spirit animal. She's like my extension of my hormones. We're both very calm. Very calm. And then Kevin goes, yeah, your Neanderthal theory is interesting indeed. Something to think about. Absolutely. Because I do see a lot of cavemen in our society. Okay? I do see a lot of cavemen in our society. And there is a sexual attraction to cavemen, to like alpha males. And so, and when you have that kind of attraction to alpha males, it's the same thing as a death trajectory. When you're trying to procreate, and you have this attraction and you want to go and reproduce, whether or not you actually intend to reproduce, but when you want to do the act of reproduction, I know, Krista, it shows that the body's on a death trajectory and you're trying to mitigate extinction. You're trying to make copies. And so it makes all the sense in the world why it is I was attracted to alpha males. Why I really couldn't get with like anyone that wasn't an alpha male in some way. So that's a sign of my own sickness. Okay. And yeah, so there is probably some credibility with that. So I'm thinking, Kevin, that this will be something that you definitely can take it and run with it. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just interesting that because we don't know as far as Neanderthals, really, we just see what our perception, like our research scientists, like on the History Channel and wherever, or even in college, we think that 40,000 years ago, or not 40, well, yeah, maybe 40,000, 20,000, or 1,000 or 1,000,000 years ago, whatever those periods are, I don't know all the dates, that was like the beginning of mankind. But it could have been the end of a civilization. Okay, why does it have to be the beginning? Why couldn't the Neanderthals and Australopithecus and Homo erectus and habilis and all that could be then what humans devolved into, or evolved into, I guess, because of mutations left unchecked. And so we have some people that have devolved faster, that are more Neanderthalic and more caveman now in their genetic line because of all the mutations left unchecked over generations and generations. And then other people have kind of kept that Neanderthalic mutation at bay because of all of their access to resources and modern medicine and things. And so they don't really exhibit or exemplify a Neanderthalic type of makeup, like their body and their mind and all that. So, but then as they keep playing in the negative elements, every generation is going to then be more and more mutated. It's going to end up assuming that one family will keep procreating, because you may see genetic lines just end in some families. You see one family have one kid, and that one kid doesn't have a kid, right? So like me, let's pretend I'm on, I'm not on J juice and I'm just, I don't have any children. I'm not going to be bringing any future Jillians into the world. So this where the line stops right here. So it happens out there. People have the line stop right then and there. So you don't see any evolution of the end up it could be a Neanderthal. But you see it in other people. You see how fast mutations are being compounded in other families. And you see them and like big families, and they're procreating like crazy, and they're mutated like crazy, and you're just like, it's almost like, what is that one movie? It's like the dueling banjos, Deliverance. I see a lot of Neanderthal people coming from Deliverance country, okay? Because people are not fixing their mutations. I'm not trying to pick on a region, but we do have a segment of the population that definitely doesn't fix the mutations. They don't take care of themselves. They don't have access to modern medicine, not a lot of access to resources, and yes, and then the violence, and then the sex abuse, all of that. Okay? And so, yeah, I can only imagine what it was like back in the Neanderthal days, what kind of stuff was going on back then. Sure, we don't hear about it because we don't really know. We just know, like, oh, we just talk about, oh yeah, they use these tools, they hunted this, they gathered this. But do we actually know the social construct of that society? Well, we don't really have anything to really give us, so we can just assume. But hey, when you're working from a very primal instinct, from a very hormonal instinct, it's because you don't have other intellectual capacity to reason and all of that. So you're always then reacting to your hormones. And that's kind of a very Neanderthalic way, and you go out there and guys that are ogling girls and chasing tail and just, drinking a lot and talking smack. It's a very Neanderthalic behavior. Not a lot of complex thought goes on. And when men get together, when they're in the locker room, oh man, that is caveman behavior. When men get together, sometimes it happens that way. So, we do see examples of Neanderthals, and we do see examples of caveman type behavior in our society. We just don't really make that connection that, that's very true. We don't make that connection that maybe they are an example of 40,000 years ago of what humanity possibly potentially evolved into. So maybe that Neanderthal was actually one of us and then just didn't take care of the mutations over generations. So, that's just something that's interesting. But other than that, that's all I got. I'm kind of out now. I'm like kind of running out of discoveries or theories. So I'm sure there'll be more, down the road, who knows? But it's like from like a year ago when I was on Dr. Phil to where I am today, as far as all these revelations, it's like I can barely even keep up with myself. I have to go back and look at everything that we've discovered together, and it's a lot. From simplifying everything down to the periodic table so that way we're not stuck in all the stories, to then realizing that the vaccine schedule is nothing more than a reflection of mutations left unchecked, and we have to give a layer of protection to our society, not allow people to get so mutated and then die from preventative, diseases, to then realize that the three things that the trinity of life and the trinity of death is antibodies, hormones, and yeast. It's like, now we finally have figured it out. Now it's just getting it rolled out to the masses, and some won't get it. There are some people that will not get it. They will refuse to get it because whatever blockage they have, and you don't put your energy in those people. You put your hormones to people who are relatively self-aware and are open to learning something different. And then the ones that aren't, don't even worry about it, because Darwin will take care of them no matter what. They did back then, and they will today. And those that are still stuck in their activism, no different than a Neanderthal. Okay? They're stuck in their hormones. And either they'll cut off their genetic line because they will die, or they'll keep reproducing every generation until it turns into someone that's left totally mutated, unchecked, something like that. So anyways, all right, I'm going to go do my thing. I'm going to go take a break. I may or may not go on tomorrow. I don't know. I'm just like, I need to think. And I don't know what else to think about, but I mean, I'm going to put my energy in figuring some stuff out. And I don't even know what to figure out. Is there anything more to figure out? Did we cover it all? I mean, I can go through every single disease, but you know what? Diseases shapeshift and mutate, that it would just be pointless. But I just figured I would talk about ALS because somebody asked about that. But it's just like, you know, biotech, there's nothing wrong with biotech because they just deal with what people want. When there's no enemy, then there's like no kind of triggers. And then you realize that my drink is probiotic, so it'd never be a result of somebody's death. People can say, oh yeah, you killed Bruce Wilmot. Well, give me the proof. My shit's probiotic. I already proved it to people. The lab that did the testing is a commercial lab that does big companies and does food testing for big companies as well as someone like me. And I purposely picked a very big commercial company to go and test my drink. So nobody can claim that J Juice harmed them because there's nothing freaking antibiotic. What has harmed them is all of their pills, powdered supplements, and detoxes and cures like baking soda and borax and diatomaceous earth, as well as their prescription drugs, because they create antigen, or they are antigen that create antibodies, and too many antibodies agglutinate and flocculate and coagulate, and then guess what? They shut the body down. Okay? And if you're not keeping your antibodies at bay, well balanced, that's what happens. You are slow poisoning yourself over time because the more antigen that you keep accumulating that turns into antibodies and you don't dilute it and pee it out and all that stuff like you do in a drug test, then guess what? First of all, you're mutated, so you're looping in the same bullshit. And then second of all, yeah, you're decreasing your lifespan exponentially. So, it's up to you. You can still play in your activism, you still play in your pills, powder supplements, and that's fine, whatever, play in your cannabis, but guess what? You are paving the way for an early death because we have still people out there that are mutating viruses, and you'll get exposed to it, and then you won't know how to counter it and fix the mutation, and guess what? You'll be more mutated and weakened. So, it's your choice. So everybody that's on this feed right now, that's watching me right now, you have a responsibility to yourself if you say you want to help humanity, as well as to your friends and family. You don't have to force them on this, but you give them the opportunity to make a choice. But try to be sincere, not half-assed. And really just up your dosage on J-Juice. My husband's doing it, but I mix it with a smoothie. But he still gets the benefit. Oh, believe me, he still gets the benefit. He doesn't love it. But at least I probably bought him a few years with him drinking this stuff, which is more than I can say for anybody else in his world that's not doing it. So, all right, you guys have a good day. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you guys later. Go to jillyjuice.com, get the book. Open up your friends and family's eyes. Give them an opportunity. And then good luck with the journey. It's going to be awesome. All right, bye.